Welcome in, everybody, to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm Tim Dennison for Dave Schrader, who is in Romania, lovely Romania this time of year. I believe Vlad Tepes is waiting at his castle for Dave and the rest of the crew, and hopefully, with any luck, they'll be back alive and in one piece. No, he's long gone. He's no need to worry. Dave will be back not this weekend and not next weekend, but the weekend after, as he is on I believe it's a 10-day expedition out there to Romania. So he will be back with us not this weekend, next weekend, the weekend after, but you'll be able to catch him on Midnight in the Desert. It'll be a week from Monday. In the meantime, yours truly will be taking over on Midnight in the Desert starting tomorrow for the entire week, Monday through Friday. And, of course, Dave will be back a week from Monday on Midnight in the Desert. We got a full week on Midnight in the Desert as well. Be sure to check it out, midnightinthedesert.com. Also, there are some other apps as well where you can catch the show. But midnightinthedesert.com, that's where you want to check it out. And, of course, be sure to subscribe. Just $5 a month to catch the shows. If you're not getting them live, you can listen live on midnightinthedesert.com, but subscribe. If you can't stay up late, I believe it's 11 to 2 Central Time or midnight to 3 Eastern Time. But if you can't stay up that late, subscribe, $5 a month, and catch yours truly at your leisure, maybe while you're sitting at your desk or doing whatever work it is you do. Catch the shows during the week because we're going to have some fun during the week. We're going to talk about everything from conspiracy theories to 5G to we're gonna go a little all over the place, but we're going to talk some paranormal. We're going to talk some conspiracies. We're going to talk about any and everything. We're going to get into evil cults and stuff like that too. So we're going to have some fun this next week on Midnight in the Desert. We're excited about today's show. We, like me and my multiple personalities, we're all excited about today's show, too. One of the things they tell you when you're ghost hunting is never combine spirits with spirits or alcohol with ghost hunting. But we're gonna make an exception to that rule today. I have two guests with me today, Devin Sisk and Ellen MacFarlane. And they've got an interesting concept. And actually, Dave met up with the two of them I believe it was a couple weekends ago, or it might have been last weekend, out at the Haunted Tahoe Biltmore Para-Retreat. And they have a website out there called napaghosts.com, and they also conduct haunted walking tours and events, and they combine spirits with spirits. Let's bring in right now Ellen and Devin and let them talk about their venture together. Folks, welcome to Beyond the Darkness.
Well, thank you.
Hi, Tim.
Hi.
Tim. Thanks for having us.
Awesome to be here, Tim. Thank you.
Well, first of all, your logo is, or your slogan is, "Come for the wine, stay for the spirits." Explain to me what Napa City Ghosts and Legends ghost walking tours and events does. Why is there wine combined with ghost hunting? Explain to folks what this is all about.
Devin, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So out here in the Napa Valley, Sonoma, and all around here, there are what we have, what we call ghost wineries. Ghost wineries were pre-prohibition. They would sell medical wine during the days of prohibition. So you had to have a prescription. Kind of sounds like something else that's going on right now.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Devin. What medical? This thing you speak of. What could it possibly be?
Let's see. Hashtag 420. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Huh.
420 winery.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Okay. Huh.
So the wine industry was still, existing, and they would make the, you'd have to have a prescription. The doctor would have to write you a script for, 3 glasses of wine at bedtime to help sleep, or with your, glaucoma, I guess. I don't know. Whatever they would write it for.
They also made wine for the churches as well. The churches kept them going as well. So, that was a very popular thing. I think the priests had a stockpile of it as well.
Ellen, the blood of Christ can't necessarily be evil, can it? Or can be a bad thing. I mean, it still needs to be made, right?
Jesus was at our event last weekend in Tahoe, so I'll have to give him a ring and ask him.
There you go. There you go. How did he end up showing up at your event? What happened?
Well, it was kind of interesting because we had this murder mystery, and it featured Satan, which was Devin playing Satan.
Oh, okay.
And,
right.
And devilishly good looking Satan, by the way.
Well, yes, I don't doubt that for a minute.
We were going to go down to the murder mystery, and we get on the elevator, and Jesus is on the elevator. So we had the devil and Jesus on the elevator together. And Jesus was played by best-selling author Rory Natero of the Idiot Girls Action Adventure Club.
Huh.
So the murder mystery was very much a comedy, of course. And so, Jesus was there and did talk about the wine during the event. It was very holy, very holy. But Jesus was Devin's brother. The devil's brother.
I swear to God, that sounds like a joke. I got to put it together. It's like Jesus and the devil are in an elevator, and you get it. What's the punchline? You know what I mean? It's it's right there. I haven't wrote it yet, but it's right there.
No. I know. You know what it is? It's that terrible movie, Night Train to Terror, when God and the devil are on the train playing chess. That's what it is. That's exactly what it's like.
That is one of the best scenes ever.
I think
it is. It truly is.
The punchline you're missing there, Devin, is that you've got Jesus and the devil in an elevator, and the elevator operator doesn't know which floor to go to.
Exactly.
And then the devil turns and says, "Going down." No.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, it needs some work. It needs a little punching up. But yeah, I think I know where you're going with it. I think we had a great time. Our event, we kind of go a little bit crazy. Obviously we had Dave out, and then we had a great time with him. The murder mystery is our answer to the meet and greet. We've been to a lot of paranormal events where people, they do these meet and greets, and it always looks like a high school or an 8th grade dance where everybody's clicked up in their own little groups, and girls are on one side and guys are on the other. Mm-hmm. We kind of wanted to eliminate that. Yeah, the snowball is kind of uncomfortable. Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. Totally.
So
we always
our answer to that was to make them... Oh, I'm sorry, Devin.
No, go ahead.
Our answer to that is to do a murder mystery and make them wear unicorn hats that we made and throw rings onto their unicorn horn, and do zombie head bowling and, poo hat catch.
Well,
make them do stuff.
Zombie head bowling sounds kind of fun. I don't know, the unicorn stuff isn't a little uncomfortable, but hey, you put a little alcohol in somebody and anything becomes comfortable, right? I mean,
that's the unicorn thing. Yeah.
The unicorn thing.
The unicorn thing turned out better than. Yeah, it turned out better than we even anticipated. We had people backed up, rear to rear.
Pardon me.
With their heads out. I just looked at Ellen. I'm like, this is better than I even envisioned. This is awesome.
Wow. They were backed up rear to rear, horns out, and what was going on?
They were throwing the rings to try to put them on their heads. I'll have to send you the video, Tim. I'll send it to you and some pictures.
Please do.
So you can see this.
Please do. It sounds very amusing. It sounds like a lot of fun. And actually, I commend you because it is, you're right. When you for people who have never been to a paranormal convention before, and you have that first night can be, I mean, depending on the organizer. I happen to know when Darkness Radio was organizing events, they were never that awkward, the opening nights, but some of them can be a little awkward, and some of them are kind of, if you're not a go-getter and you're not a person who gets out there and kind of sticks your hand out and says, "Hi, I'm so-and-so," you can tend to, not meet a whole lot of people unless you have somebody leading you around by the hand saying, "Hey, come meet so-and-so." If you're not an outgoing person, sometimes you can get lost in the fray a little bit.
Right. Well, we always try to realize that there's new people out there, and this may be their first event, the first time doing anything in the paranormal, and we kind of want to, it's like even with our tours are like, mini investigations. We've got 3 of them, but they've been set up to highlight different aspects of the paranormal. So I don't say we're giving you guys an appetizer's taste of what it's like to be a paranormal investigator. Obviously, we're not doing all the research and we're not doing all the, hardcore investigating, but all the work's kind of been done for people so they can just kind of come out, have the experience, and, walk away with it. And it's funny because a lot of times that leads into people, getting into the paranormal.
Well, it sounds like even with this event that you had, that you gave people a nice, fun introduction to it. Whereas, our first introduction really, if you look at it on television, the introduction's kind of cold and sterile. And if anything, is
very much so.
It's meant to kind of tickle your senses in a frightening way. So let me ask, and I'll start with you, Ellen. I'll start with your introduction to the paranormal. Let's kind of backtrack a little bit, and let's get your individual histories. Ellen, your introduction to the paranormal, was it more of a frightening introduction, or was it a more fun introduction to the paranormal? If there's such a thing as a fun introduction to the paranormal, what was your introduction to the paranormal?
Well, actually, I was born with a gift, and that gift was mediumship. I know that a lot of people in the field say, "Oh, I'm psychic, I'm a medium," or whatever, and it's kind of cliche. But truly, from the age of 5, I would see dead people standing around my bed. And it was terrifying, actually. It was very terrifying. And then at the age of 10, my mother died suddenly. And at that point, I was alone with my dad, and it was just my dad and I really missed my mother. And so I began to reach out at the age of 10 to learn about ghosts and spirits, and in a search to try to find my mother, to see if I could find the other side. What I learned from that was obviously that there's good ways to go about it and there's bad ways to go about it. And believe me, I've tried everything. My first experiment was with a Ouija board, because that's what kids do. And I realized that by using the Ouija board, I would hear the answers in my head before they would be spelled out. And that began to give me an inkling that I was getting something. I was transmitting something. I was getting something from the other side that I couldn't explain, but that was validated, because it would tell me things that was going to happen, and I would hear it, and it wasn't a spirit, it wasn't possession, it was either my guides or my line to the other side. What I also learned was that it's a hereditary gift. It runs in my dad's side of the family, and everybody in Ireland, my cousins and everybody else, seem to have the same gift. It's really nothing special in the family. It's just that our American side, my dad and his brothers, who were first-generation Americans, they didn't embrace it. However, my grandmother was a practicer of the old religion, as well as a very devout Catholic, which was kind of a dichotomy, but she was very scared of it. She would go to church twice a day. They would say the rosary every night. So it was kind of a hush-hush thing, but well-known within our family, but I didn't learn that until I was an adult. I then went on to study by myself, and I joined a couple groups, and not really big on groups, although I have one of my own. My group is North Bay RIP. that I started in 2011 with some friends, and we kind of have an open door policy. Everybody can work with everybody else. There's no cliques. There's nothing like that. We're not a traditional group.
Okay.
But I began to work with law enforcement. I got called in on some cold cases and worked on cold cases and finding people. And I began to help families and do things like that. I'm not a reading medium. I don't do readings for people. I'm a trance medium. My work is for helping families and helping law enforcement. I never charge for my work. I do all my work pro bono. It's my way of giving back. Mm-hmm. So those are my things. And I also have a love of history, so that kind of led into the tours. So that's kind of my background. I've been in the field for over 25 years. I've always kind of flown under the radar until I met Devin, who is kind of very loud and boisterous.
My kind of guy.
And, he kind of, dragged me out of my shell, whether I liked it or not. So here we are.
I'm in the next room,
I wanted to say quickly though about the tours, about the wine and the tours. Mm-hmm. We do promote wine because we are in wine country. Mm-hmm. However, we do not allow drinking and drunk before the tours.
Okay.
We have the drinks after the tours.
Ah, good. Okay.
So, but that's all fine and good. But I could tell you some wild stories about drunk tourists coming on the tours.
We will get to that, though, Ellen. We will get to that. We'll get to that probably in the second half of the program here, because we do want to get to those stories, and we will delve deeper into the tours here as we go along. Devin, I want to get to Devin Sisk is our other guest here, and we don't want to give him second billing by any means, because he is the loud and boisterous one. But Devin, what was your start in the paranormal? Was it the scary route, or was it the more fun route, or if there is such a thing as a fun route? How did you get started in the paranormal?
Well, before my introduction to the paranormal, my I would be totally sated by reading a book or watching a show or something like that. I always had an interest in it, but it wasn't like I'm going to dive into it. Mm-hmm. The crazy thing was I ended up getting sick really, really bad one day. I was coming home from work, and I was running a fever. It's like the middle of the afternoon. It's like 102 outside. I've got the windows up and the heater on in the car. So I know that I'm really sick. Mm-hmm. I get to the house, and to put it nicely, everything evacuated my body all night long.
Ooh,
okay?
Yeah.
And next morning, I wake up and my wife's like, I got to get you to the hospital. You look really bad. And she brings me out to the hallway where the light is a little bit better. And she sees that I'm this lovely gray shade of color and, says, I'm going to call an ambulance. Well, I don't remember any of this. The ambulance showed up, and they're asking me, with the police and the paramedics, they're all asking me questions about, who's this, who are you, so on and so forth. They were talking, my son was sitting there with us, and they're like, who is this guy? And I'm like, oh, it's the neighbor's kid. He comes over all the time. Just leave him alone. He's a good kid. So I ended up going into the hospital, and, they're taking care of me. And again, I don't remember any of this. What I do remember is I'm standing at the end of the bed, standing next to my wife, and my wife is being held by a nurse, and she is screaming, no, no, no. And I go over in what I call protective husband mode, and I go over to her and say, what's going on? What the hell's up? I don't understand. She can't see me, hear me, or feel me. Mm. And I'm trying to yell at her. I'm trying to scream. I'm trying to touch her. Everybody else. And everything looks off. Like the color's been turned down a little bit. And like as people were walking by, there's like almost a little bit of a trail. So I'm kind of freaking out, and I run through the ER room trying to figure out what's going on and trying to make contact with people. They call it the shoe because it makes a U. It's kind of like a horseshoe.
Okay.
And they keep all the criticals down there. So I make my way back to where my wife is, and she's still being held by the nurse. And there's all these doctors and nurses around the bed. And I see one of the nurses jump up on the bed and start doing chest compressions on the on the person in the bed. And I say things that are not inappropriate, but not like I was being mean. Okay, I was just making a general statement. And I looked, I was like, oh my God, that guy's screwed, you know? Well, the doctor's parted, and I see my face in the bed.
Oh.
I'm laying there.
Oh.
And I started backing out, and everything looked like an old TV set. When you turned it off, remember back in the day, you turned the TV set off and it would go down into a rectangle, and then it would be a fine light. My brother and I remember we used to look at the TV and see if we could see movement until the light was gone,
Yep.
It looked like that. Ellen always gives me hell because she says, Devin's always got to be different. So he went through the tunnel backwards, which I think is hilarious.
Of course. Of course.
Right?
Devin's always got to do stuff different. Always.
Right. So, I blink, the light goes out, and I wake up and I'm on the other side. Okay? I'm sitting on the coolest rock and roll couch you could ever imagine. It's like this crushed red velvet couch, and it's sitting under all these like willow trees, and it's just amazing. It looks like it was pulled out of some rock and roll club in New Orleans. Okay, which it totally fits me. I'm like, yeah, this is heaven. And I'm sitting there, and I'm not in any pain anymore. I had the overwhelming sensation of coming home. Like I had been gone for like 3 or 4 months, and it's going to be good to sleep in your own bed tonight, that kind of feeling.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was surrounded by one of the most intense feelings of love that I've ever felt in my life. And I'm sitting there just kind of, digging it. And, I feel somebody come up behind the couch, and they start talking to me, and they're telling me stories about my life, but it's all like really bad stories.
Really?
Okay. And they would start them off with, we were with you when this happened. Okay. And, all the stories are stuff where, as I look back on it, I'm like, wow, that could have gone either way, So what they were trying to convey is that, they were my guides, my guardian angels, whatever people believe in. And I'm like, okay, I get it. And they're like, we talked for a little while longer. And that part's mine. I don't share that with anybody just because,
right.
It's for me.
Right.
So,
gotcha.
So no offense to anybody. In fact, Ellen doesn't even know this stuff. So it's just one of those things. I got to keep it to my side of things. So when we were finished with our conversation, the one who was in charge, and I'm like, cool, tell me what I won, I was hoping for a 67 GTO, but I didn't get it yet, so we'll see what happens. So he's like, well, you've been given this free gift. You can continue on with the work, or you can continue on with the journey. Now, my son who's he was about 3 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just kind of figuring out that he has cerebral palsy.
Mm-hmm.
And he was my first thought. You know, I was like, I have to be there for my kid. You know, he's already been dealt a crap hand. You know, having cerebral palsy, things are going to be hard enough on him. Can't bail on him, you know?
Right.
And, you know, I was given the choice to come back or, you know, continue on. So, you know, as soon as I thought about him and what was going on with him, I was like, you know, it felt like I was being dropped from outer space. I was slammed back into my body. Meanwhile, back on Earth, 17 minutes had passed. The emergency room crew had pushed me into the little goodbye room, which is, for those of you who don't know what the goodbye room is, that's the room you go to before the morgue where your family comes and says goodbye to you. So my wife's in there, and, you know, she's calling people, oh, Devin's dead, Devin's dead. And I sat up, I took a deep breath, scared the living hell out of her, and thank God Walking Dead wasn't on yet, because that could have went really bad.
Boy, could it ever.
Yeah, right? His relationship goals. I put something in his brain pan. Yes, you know? So the, you know, I was gone for about 17 minutes. The thing that killed me was I had 108, 109 fever, which sent the body into cardiac arrest. It took me, you know, it took me about 6 months to finally realize what happened. And that was during a conversation with the wife, and she's like, hey, remember when you were in the hospital? And I was like, you know, yeah, that sucked. It was horrible. You know, she's like, they lost you. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean they lost me? Like, what, they give me somebody else's name, or they push me in a different room? You know how you don't think right at the right time, you know? Sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean? You know, and she's like, no, they lost you last year. I was like, oh, and then all of a sudden a lot of this stuff started coming back. So now how does it lead into me going into the paranormal? Well, I think those few moments where I was walking around the ER room in terror is what it's like to be a ghost, because nobody can hear you, see you, or feel you. Mm-hmm. So, and one of Ellen and I's big things is completing the work. And when I say by completing the work is by doing crossings and helping resolve issues of these spirits.
So I would ask you this question, Devin, in that, you know, it's interesting, and I guess I have to ask you a couple questions here. When you ran into Dave at the conference, Dave has a huge fear of death, so I got to imagine when the two of you hooked up at the conference, did he talk to you about his fear of death, and were you able to quell any of his fear with your story?
To be honest with you, we didn't have that conversation.
Really?
Because we were hosting the event. Mm-hmm. You know, Ellen and I were both incredibly busy.
Okay.
You know, Dave and I had some jokes together. You know, we had, we had some really good laughs together.
I bet, yeah.
But we never got into, you know, what brought you here and that kind of thing. So.
Interesting. I really think that, too, it's interesting that he didn't get a chance to talk to you directly about this, and I think he should, because he's had this for his entire life, and it doesn't matter how many of these stories I think he encounters. Listen to me here playing dime store psychologist, but he's still had this overwhelming fear of death, and I find your story absolutely fascinating, and I find a lot of near-death experiences absolutely fascinating. The other question I would have for you is this: now that you've had that experience, did it strengthen or shake your faith after you came back?
Well, okay, that's a tricky minefield question, and I'm going to do the best I can with it.
Sure.
I've become more spiritual.
Okay.
You know, it's about the experience here, and it's about, you know, the intense feeling you get with people, you know, the love, the emotion, the things that you share with people here.
Sure.
You know, I'm not really religious. I mean, like if you were to say, are you this? I would say I'm a little bit of everything. So I kind of taken this, the very spiritual aspect of religions without being in some kind of organized religion, I guess.
Absolutely.
Just because everything else doesn't feel right to me.
I guess I should say, and I should clarify, Devin, by saying by faith, I should say faith in that there's something after this. Not necessarily in a religious aspect, but faith that there is something after this world.
Yeah, no, there's something, that's the thing. It's like, if you talk to people who knew me before this incident, to people who know me now, it could turn me around. I was very money driven. I was very, very egotistical. It was all about, being somebody and, showing that I had money and that I had made it and that, for instance, okay, I would buy front row seats to the opera in San Francisco and purposely show up 5 minutes late just so I could be ushered in.
Okay.
Okay? And I hate opera, okay? I absolutely hate opera. But it was like my way of saying, hey, look, I made it. Even though I don't know any of these people, I wanted them to know I made it. So now I've really become more of a loving person and more of a people person. It's like I'd rather have the experience with people.
Okay. So I would ask Ellen this question: when you see Devin now, and I've always wanted to ask this of someone who's psychic, who's a medium, with someone who has the potential to see things on the other side. When you look at somebody who's come back from an experience like that, do you see what someone would say is the equivalent of a psychic scar or like a mark, something like
absolutely
an experience like they've gone through some sort of traumatic experience, like they've been there, they've come back, and you can see it psychically?
Absolutely.
What does it look like to you?
Well, I see. First of all, I didn't know this because I thought that everybody could do this, but apparently it's not done. But I see everything in colors. Like if you tell me somebody's name, I'll sell you a color. It's not an aura, but it's kind of like an aura.
Okay.
But I can see the strength of the color around them. And I found that, I didn't know this because I've always thought everybody could do this, but people see music in color as well. And they're just now doing a study of it. I can't even pronounce the name of it, but if you Google it, it'll come up. And they're connecting that to like mediumship and psychicness. But people tend to have a strength about them that you can see that they've lived many lifetimes. Also, Devin and I both are survivors of things, so I immediately identify with the survivor part of that. We both had kind of rocky childhoods. And I think that has strengthened that. I'm a really good judge of character, for one thing. Devin always, he always gets along with people, whereas I'm the one that I don't fight with people, but I stand back.
Okay.
And that's part of knowing. There's just a knowing inside of me that knows that. And I immediately know whether somebody is telling the truth or whether somebody is lying. It's very rare that somebody can fool me. And I think that's one of the things that I get from being a medium. I get a lot of information from the other side. So if somebody is BSing me, their guide is going to jump in and tell me, hey, this person's not telling the truth. And that's one of the reasons why I don't do readings, because if somebody is not being fully honest, then I don't want to be the one to have to call them on that and, strip them in front of somebody else. We get it all the time on the tours where I'll say, oh, I'm a medium, but I only work with law enforcement, or I only work on, cases with families, and they'll say, "Who's around me? What are they doing? What?" And they'll ask me all these things, and I'll see horrible things about their lives that I don't want to share with them. And it is like a scar. I mean, it really is. You get things that you don't want to give to people. You get things that keep you up at night. Mm-hmm. We do get that with the spirits as well on our tours. We have one murder-suicide couple on our tour that was really horrific. And you see these things, and it is. It's like a scar. I've drawn to several people. I mean, I have a few people in my inner circle that I know are survivors, and I can handle their stuff. But people are very strong. When I get around large crowds of people, say like at an event or, like a festival or something, I'll literally just shut down. I'll shut down. So, it'll affect me physically and mentally.
Interesting. Very interesting. Devin, let me ask you this. Now, when you came back, or after you came back to your body and you started to reestablish things, did you notice, and a lot of times when people come back from near-death experiences, not only do their personas change and do their, things change with their lives, and I told you right before the program. This is kind of inside baseball. No. But I told you guys. I said things happen during podcasts. People cough, dogs bark, virgins get sacrificed, stuff like that. I'm just waiting now for the virgin sacrifice.
I'm still waiting for that one, by the way.
Yeah. So it's okay, right? So
that's my dog Momo. He's ridiculous.
Oh,
so
now see, how old is Momo? We need an introduction to the dog.
He's like 8 or 9, I guess.
Okay. And what breed is Momo?
Momo is like a big lab hound thing that he runs away every chance he can get. He's been in 5 different homes.
Okay.
So we're his last chance. No,
don't say that.
I know. No, I mean, we would never give him up.
Oh, good.
I mean, we were his last chance before, he was put down because he constantly runs away, and he loves Devin, and whenever Devin stays over in the guest room with us, Momo sleeps in the bed with Devin.
Okay.
So he's pining for Devin right now. He should live with Devin, not me.
Oh, well, we love animals here on the show, so it's not a big deal.
We do too.
Yeah. So if Momo wants to speak up, it's not a big deal. So.
Okay. Yes.
So I was asking Devin. So a lot of times, people will inherit certain gifts when they come back from the other side. I would ask you, did you inherit anything when you came back?
I think, to be very honest, it's like I started picking up the dowsing rod, and when I first got into the paranormal, I was approaching everything with a very scientific and analytical mind. I wanted to break it apart, put it in a box, and see what I can do with it.
Okay.
And obviously that doesn't work with the paranormal. And those of you who just heard that just probably went, "Really, dude?" And then it was a few years in, I picked up a set of dowsing rods, and I started noticing, different things. I started, communicating with the dowsing rods, and I started hearing it in my head as well. And ever since I started working with Ellen, and I partnered with her, it has been a really, really strong connection. So,
interesting.
I don't want to say, I picked up some mediumship or something on the way back, but there are certain things that I know, and there's certain things that I hear, and I'm nowhere as talented as Ellen is, because I've seen Ellen do some amazing stuff. I mean, I've seen her find, a missing person who was still alive, which was absolutely incredible. Mm-hmm. It was a moment that, I will never forget. I mean,
well, Devin, let's get to that here in a second. Yeah. Let's tease people about that here in a second. Let's get to that in a moment, and we'll find out how Ellen did that in just a second. All right, folks, welcome back to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm Tim Dennis in for Dave Schrader. My guests are Devin Sisk and Ellen MacFarlane, and we're talking about their ventures. The websites are napaghost.com and laughingdevil, DEVEL.com. And we were right in the middle of a story. I don't want to interrupt any further here, but Devin was talking about Ellen's mediumship ability and finding a missing person who's actually still alive. And Devin, I'm sorry, I know I interrupted there, but continue. So Ellen actually found a missing person who was still alive?
Yeah, it was actually really intense because this young lady had gone to a party and she disappeared from the party. I mean, just up and nowhere. Nobody's seen where she went. Nobody, seen her leave with anybody. She left her car keys behind. She left her cell phone behind. She left her purse behind. And she left her car behind. Okay, so right away it doesn't look good for her, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The client who I was working with, they had already seen a couple different psychics down in Southern California, and they were getting really horrible stuff. She's face up in the river, she's chopped up in a well. I mean, just really, really bad stuff. And so I started, funneling information through to Ellen about this case. Now, the thing is that Ellen and I are both what we call skeptical believers. Okay, we believe in all this stuff, but we're also not stupid. Okay, I mean, if the door slams in the front of the house because somebody closed the door in the back of the house, it's a vacuum. Your house isn't haunted.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That kind of thing. So we want to logically think the process through before we do this. Now, one of Ellen's gifts is that she can kind of and she does automatic writing. She can also do this while she's texting or on the computer. Keys and things come up. So I'm texting her information, saying I've got somebody missing, so on and so forth. Ellen sends back, well, it's a female. She's 21 years old, and she's got strawberry blonde hair, and she's kind of, hippie chick, kind of free-spirited. So I send that back to the client. The client hits me up, sends me a picture of her. Nails it. Okay, totally nails what this young lady looked like. And we go on for about 45 minutes, sending information back and forth, funneling it through the client to me, back to Ellen, and back from Ellen to me, to the client. Finally, towards the end, Ellen sends, Devin, she's still alive. And I kind of went into a panic state because it's like, okay, what do you mean she's still alive? She's still alive? And she goes, she's still alive. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to hang on to that for just a minute. I'm not going to send this as a client because, that could be not so good right now. We keep getting information back and forth, and finally Ellen sends again, Devin, she's alive, and you need to send this. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll hang on just a minute before I send that. And we go on a couple minutes more, and she goes, Devin, she is going to make herself known on the border of Arizona and Utah in exactly 6 weeks. She's alive. Send it. Now, mind you, at this point, everything's in bold caps, okay?
Right.
With exclamation marks. So basically, she's yelling at me to send it. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to send it. I send it. Sure enough, this young lady shows up and calls in exactly 6 weeks on the border of Arizona and Utah. Ellen, why don't you take it from there?
Well, she had been she'd been following a guy. I'd like to think of him kind of like a Manson figure, kind of like a cult guy that she met at the party. And she kind of just dropped everything and started following these guys around. It'd go to like Burning Man and gem festivals and things like that, and just totally disregarded her family completely. Was totally infatuated with this guy, and at that point, I guess he beat her up or done something to her to make her finally reach out to her family, and she finally did. However, you know, if it had been my child that did that, she wouldn't be alive right now because I would have beat her ass. Yeah. You know, it was like not going to happen. But,
right.
But we do that, and that's the kind of work that I do. You know, I'm not going to say no to someone if they really need me, and I'm definitely not 100% accurate. I only get what I get. You know, and working with families like that and working with spirits, we work with a lot of spirits in the same way because they're lost. And part of the reason we do what we do, the tours support us doing the work that we do. We are able to go out to locations, find spirits that are there that are stuck, and find out their whole story and then document it. We have great researchers. We have a great researcher named Becky Curtis that will find anything in the history. And we also have a sheriff, Grant Johnson, and Kitty Johnson, his wife, who will go to the lengths of the earth to find and document the stuff that we find, and then validate it after we get the information, and then we can help them cross. You know, so that's the really big work that we do. Mm-hmm. The tours are really amazing, and they're really fun, and we do have ghosts that we love on the tours, but the ultimate work is to cross these spirits and to help them. And we do use a lot of comedy on our tours. We're very happy people. We think that comedy raises the vibration and we're able to communicate better, but we are very serious in the work that we do as far as crossing spirits over and making them go to where they're supposed to go. And we've helped countless spirits this way. And Devin, with his ability, I think it's because he's crossed over, he's able to really talk to that white light and call that white light down. Whereas I'm able to see the white light more than he can see it. So we work together as like, you know, a powerhouse, a team. And we collect the energy from other people. We get in a circle and collect that energy to try to move these spirits. The spirits on our tours, Napa and Sonoma, they're happy where they're at right now. But they do have the ability to cross at any time. We've always given them that opportunity. We like to think of the ghosts on our tours as family. So we are very much in tune with them. You know, as for my ability in finding people, it's very rewarding. It's like the most rewarding thing that you can ever do is to give closure to somebody that's missing someone. Or if somebody has died and they don't know how the person has died, that's another closure. We had a case where it was a pretty famous San Francisco family, and they didn't know how the father had died, whether it was a suicide or an accident. And we were able to give them closure to that. That was another rewarding case. Oh, wow. Another one was a couple who had infertility problems, and the grandmother of the woman came through and told the woman, "You're going to be pregnant in 18 months. And in 18 months, I got an email, "I'm pregnant. I just want to let you know that."
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
We've also had things with their health. I said to a guy one night on the tour, actually I have a Yelp review if anybody wants to go and find it. But I said, "You need to get checked for diabetes right now." And sure enough, he came back, "I have diabetes. I need to," and I was very close to like having an eye rupture, something like that, with it. It was unchecked. So sometimes I'll get things like that and I'm able to share on the tour. Sometimes it's cases we're called in on. We are still active investigators, obviously. Mm-hmm. So it's all very intermingled and intertwined, what we work at and what we do, how we live. We live the paranormal 24/7, basically. Our whole life is a paranormal experiment, is what I always like to say.
Well, let me ask you this before we go to Theater of the Mind here. The one thing we haven't gotten from the two of you here is how the two of you came together as a team. And I guess my question would be, how is it that the two of you found each other?
I was at a conference that Devin was at. And
okay.
I'll let Devin, you can tell the rest. I met Devin at a conference, and Devin, you can tell him how that went.
Okay.
Yeah, I was doing another tour at the time in a town called Benicia, and Ellen was trying to get into the COQ, the commanding officer quarter in Benicia, which dates back to Civil War. Lincoln did time in there. It was, it was one of those buildings that they consider very protected. And anytime anybody in the city wanted to do or if you came into the city and wanted to do something paranormal, they would go to the guy who, ran the ghost tour because he's supposed to know everybody, that kind of thing. He's like,
okay.
Check him out. Okay, I'll do it, And, we were doing the meet and greet, and she came up to me, and we started talking, and, I immediately knew I wanted to vouch for him because I'd already done research on her team, and I was impressed with her, and I told her, I said, we should do some work together, and we both just kind of hit it off.
Huh, very interesting.
And just a little side note, I'm the mom of 3 boys, 3 very stinky, loving, crazy boys.
Did they ever smell good, though? I mean, let's be honest. Have you ever met
Have you ever
met a little boy who smells great?
No.
Okay.
After the babyhood, no.
Okay.
So the oldest is 10 now, and the other 2, they're twins. They're going to be 9 in about 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And
Alan, it's called Planned Parenthood, girl.
Oh yeah, right. Shut up, Devin. Shut up. Okay, so yeah, it was whatever, Devin. At least I don't have my kids 10 years apart. So mine were all born in a 2-year span.
It's just grouping, honey. It's
I had them all at once. So I had them very quickly close together.
Mm-hmm.
And me being me, I'm a little opinionated on things sometimes. And I knew nobody was going to hire me because I just knew it. And before this, I owned my own business. I was an antique shop owner in Napa. And I thought, I have to start a business. And my lifelong dream was to open a walking tour, historical walking tour in Napa. And I had actually interviewed with a company that was here in Napa the summer before I met Devin, and they turned me down. And me being me, I said, okay, if you're not going to hire me for your walking tour, then I'm going to start one of my own. So this was in my head the whole time. And then I began to research more and more about Napa. We have a dead serial killer. There is the last public execution in California was on the Napa courthouse grounds, and we began to get in contact with him. So, working on that and working on the ghost of the tour, it fell together. And Devin already being established in Benicia at the time, it just made sense to work together. We both have the same passion for history and the paranormal, and we hit it off. We're best friends. So, we spend a lot of time together working on things like this. And, it's gotten to the point where we're now being asked to do tours, 40 and 60 miles away. We're picking up winery tours, and we've got a bus now. It's just growing. In the 5 years that we've been doing it, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it all became because Ellen couldn't get a job, and she got knocked up with kids in 2 years.
So there's your lesson, kids. There's a lesson for life. If you can't get a job and you just are getting knocked up, find yourself a winery to do ghost tours at. All will be well.
See that? Okay, I thought the lesson was hire Ellen so she doesn't put you out of business.
Oh,
but
that
hey, that's
okay.
just me.
Exactly.
I don't know.
That other walking tour is out of business now, by the way. So I didn't do it on purpose.
I'm really bad at morals of the story, so I I just never learned that part when it came to English class and writing, creative writing. I was horrible at that, too. I tell you what, folks, at this point, it's time for us now to go to this week's edition of Theater of the Mind. When we come back, we'll have more with Devin Sisk and with Ellen MacFarlane. We'll talk more about Napa City Ghosts and Legends, ghost walking tours and events. We'll get into the actual tour itself, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the drunker stories of the tour. We'll do that as well here in the second part of Beyond the Darkness. But first, it's time for this week's edition of Theater of the Mind.
Today's Theater of the Mind. Hand in Hand, a true encounter from Dutch Purcell. In the summer of '96, I'd gone for a long weekend adventure with my best friend Barry and our girlfriends, Katie and Marie. Personally, I was not a fan of long car rides. They often made me sick, and I did my best to sleep as much as I could through them. They say the true reward is the journey, not the destination. I, however, strongly disagree. We had spent a fun weekend at Barry's uncle's cabin. Thankfully, there were no machete-wielding wild men hunting us down one by one. We fished, hiked, and we spent a lot of time cuddling by campfires, exchanging ghost stories, and lots of laughs. We were surrounded by the sounds of nature, crickets, and the constant, friendly reminder of a crackling, popping fire. I listened intently as each of my three fellow travelers shared strange experiences with the supernatural. I had not been so lucky. Although most of the stories were pretty out there and hard for me to believe, I was struck by the tale Barry shared. It involved his grandma. Barry had been awoken by someone patting him vigorously, trying to get his attention. He slowly sat up in bed and was surprised to see his grandma standing there. She looked as solid as if she were in the room. He rubbed his eyes and asked, Hey, Grandma, I wasn't expecting you. What a nice surprise. What are you doing here? She just smiled at him and began to wave. As she did that, he said he began to watch her evaporate. It started from foot and made its way all the way up to her head, just like a wispy cloud breaking apart. By this time, Barry was fully awake and ran out of his room to his parents and told them what he just saw. His father merely waved him off, but his mom, she said that she felt Barry's fear and concern. So the two of them went to the kitchen and decided to call, just to check on everyone. It was late and the phone rang and rang, which was expected as they had not caught up to the times. The only phone was still mounted on a wall in the kitchen at Grandpa and Grandma's. After 2 or 3 more attempts, they decided to call it a night and try them again first thing in the morning. Around 2 hours later, Barry's house was awoken to the sound of the hall phone. He heard his mom answer the call. Then she began to weep. Barry got out of bed and, as you guessed it, it was Grandpa. He called to say that we had lost Grandma in her sleep. They had been on vacation, and that's why they did not answer their phone when we had called earlier. That story really touched me, in many ways. I lay awake that night, late night, thinking of that story and how jarring it must have been for Barry and his family. Luckily, I still had both sets of my grandparents. The next day, we set off for home. I settled in, and about 90 minutes into the trip, the girls had nodded off in the back seat, and I was soon to follow after making sure that Barry was good on his own. He said he was, and liked the silence after the long, loud weekend. I turned sideways in my bucket seat and slung one arm over the back of the seat, and that's when I felt Marie lace her fingers in mine as I drifted off to join her in deep slumber. I woke up to the feel of Marie's hand in mine. She was cold as ice. I gave her hand a squeeze and quietly called back, You okay, babe? There was no answer. I gave her another squeeze and tugged her arm a bit, trying to rouse her, and I called out again, Babe? Still no answer. Barry saw the concern on my face and glanced back to the back seat and assured me that they were there, just sound asleep. I noticed her hand was cold as ice and no longer clutching mine. Then panic set in. I squeezed her hard and yanked at her arm. Marie, baby, are you okay? I cried out in an anxiety-filled voice. To my surprise, she sat up and assured me she was. I looked to her, and that's when I saw her, rubbing her eyes with both hands. Katie beside her on the far driver's side back seat. Yet, still my hand was entwined with a cold, dead hand. I let it go, and I let out with a holler. Barry damn near ran us off the road as he pulled the car into a screeching halt on the shoulder. We pulled over. I explained what had happened, and his face went white. It was then, and there, that he told us the rest of the story. The car we were in belonged to his grandparents. The back seat? That's where his grandma passed away in her sleep while his grandfather drove through the night. My skin crawled. Had I just held hands with a dead woman? As I said earlier, this story really touched me in many ways.
Beyond the darkness.
Welcome back to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm Tim Dennison for Dave Schrader. I want to remind you guys that this coming Monday, tomorrow as a matter of fact, I take over Midnight in the Desert all week long for Dave, Monday through Friday. We've got some great topics. We're going to be talking about everything from 5G to cults to all kinds of different paranormal topics. Check out midnightinthedesert.com. All the topics are up there, and we're going to have a great week. And if you can't listen live, by all means, sign up for the archives. Just $5 a month. And you can get the podcasts, not only just me, but Dave and all the other archives that are there in the archives. Get yourself a subscription, by gosh, and never miss an episode of Midnight in the Desert. And it's well worth it, just $5 a month. Do it right now. And you don't have to wait around and listen to me live. But if you want to listen to me live, 11 to 2 Central Time, midnight to 3 Eastern Time is when you can catch it live. And, of course, you can get it for free if you want to listen live, midnightinthedesert.com. But I encourage you to pick up the subscription because you can listen at your leisure whenever you want. You can listen at your desk at work. You can listen at home. You can listen in your car, wherever you want to listen to it. And just listen to my dulcet, prepubescent tones whenever you want. There you go. But midnightinthedesert.com will be on all week, Monday through Friday. And then join us again next weekend. Join me next weekend here on Beyond the Darkness. Dave will be back next weekend here on Beyond the Darkness and next week on Midnight in the Desert, as he's in Romania. He's enjoying lovely Romania, where it's nothing but borscht and fall colors, I believe, is what's going on there in Romania. But if you want to check out Dave or myself anywhere around the nation at different events, it's darknessevents.com. Just go to darknessevents.com, and you can check out where Dave or I will be around the nation talking about different paranormal subjects or just doing whatever we do around the nation, making different appearances and whatnot. That's darknessevents.com. Our guests today are Devin, Sisk, and Ellen MacFarlane. We've been having some fun today. Check out their website, napaghosts.com. That's napaghosts.com. They run the Napa City Ghosts and Legends ghost walking tours and events. And, gang, before we went to break, we were talking a little bit about the walking tours and events. And we're going to get a little bit now into the actual tours because and we had talked a little bit about it in the first half of the program, talking about kind of the winery itself and the fact that it was, when it was established, there was a need for medicinal wine in Prohibition. My question, I guess I'll start it off with this, is when you came across the winery and the need for a ghost tour at the winery, I guess what went off in your heads, the two of you, when you decided to combine haunted winery and ghost tour, and when you founded the tour, what in your minds did you say, we have to set this apart from every other tour? What did you decide you were going to do to make it different? If that makes sense. If I didn't make that a convoluted question already, what did you do to make it different, or how did you decide you were going to make it different?
You know, Tim, when you ask a question, it's like doing Common Core math. You know that?
Yeah, I know. I just throw a bunch of different stuff out there, and you decide if you can make sense of it.
Okay, Al, you want to take that?
Yeah. Well, actually, there's a couple different things. We actually are multifaceted in this way. So let me explain how we do what we do.
Okay.
We only do winery tours when they call us.
Oh, okay.
So we're actually going to be doing a winery tour at Flora Springs Winery on October 28th. It's wine tasting and wine in there. They do a magnificent Halloween label. And we're going to be going into their wine caves and into different parts of the winery. They will have tickets on sale through Flora Springs. It's not up yet, but it will be, and I will post that on Napa Ghost when it's ready.
Okay.
However, we do those when they call us, and we've done several. We've done Castello di Amorosa. We used to do that for quite a while, which is a castle here in town in Calistoga. The majority of our tours, though, are actually in public in the town. So Napa tour is all of the downtown area around the courthouse area and by the river. Sonoma tour is around the plaza and around the Mission and the barracks. And our Vacaville tour is through the downtown Vacaville and in the old town jail, which is a part of the Vacaville Heritage Council, who we work hand in hand with on that tour. Half of the proceeds of the tour go to them, and they save places like, the downtown, and they save Peña Adobe, different places like that. So we actually have 3 separate tours that are walking tours, and we are actually getting ready to start our own mobile tour to the ghost wineries with a bus. So they're all different, and they're all growing. If you want to talk about like any specific tour, like the one in Napa, that's more historical. Sonoma is more metaphysical, and Vacaville is just off the hook as far as we never really know what's going to happen there. And the wineries are, they're usually resident ghosts, people of the land, things like that, winery owners. Sometimes they have haunted artifacts, things like that.
Well, now you're
I don't know if you want, there's a
You're intriguing me here, Ellen. Yeah, let's now wait a minute. You intrigued me with metaphysical tour and wine. Explain to me how that works.
Well, in Sonoma, we actually have people stand. We give them, a history, and Devin leads them through a visualization, whereas they close their eyes, and there's a large oak tree that holds a lot of history in the town of Sonoma. And we have them sort of close their eyes. We don't tell them why we're there, what we're doing. And we tell them to close their eyes for about 15 seconds. And we lead them through that. Devin leads them through that. And then we ask them what their impressions are. And more often than not, I'd say at least a good, 30% of them will get what the history is in their mind's eye. Really? So that's, yes. And by the end of the tour, where we end in an area which I can't give away, but that is very steeped in very dark history. By the end of the tour, about 80% of them will pick up on what we have. So they are led through gradually with getting in touch with themselves, as well as doing the paranormal investigation. We ask them to use all of their senses. We believe that your body is the most sensitive instrument that you can have. Devin teaches them how to use the dowsing rods. We use K2 meters. Sometimes we use REM pods. We take ourselves out of the equation by having them ask yes and no questions and get validations. We have a child ghost on that tour that we play a game of hide and go seek with, where we hide a fire truck. Somebody holds it in their pocket. The child picks somebody out of the group. We take that person out of earshot. Hearing distance and seeing distance, and then we hide the fire truck, and then we bring them back. We give them the rods, and they go around the circle, and the ghost will lead them to whoever has the fire truck in their pocket. This is about 90% accurate. He gets it about 90% of the time. This takes us out of the equation. There's no way that we can fake these things or show, there's no way to put a magnet in somebody's pocket or to have a show or any of that. It shows them that they too can do this work. And it gets them in touch with paranormal research right at the very core, their feelings. You don't have to have all this fancy equipment to go out and do it. You can listen to your gut, and you can get just as much stuff I'm not a big one for equipment. I'm married to an IT guy that wants me to do like everything technical that there is and wants to build stuff. But ultimately, it's my body that I use, and I want to teach people how to do that as well. Often we get asked for drinks after, and we do go out to like the Swiss Hotel or Mary's Pizza Shack, and we'll sit and we'll have cocktails or coffee and discuss people's actual paranormal experiences, what they've felt on the tours, what they've seen. And it's mind-blowing. I can't even tell you how many followers we've brought, how many newcomers have come to our events, how many people have gone out and started their own teams and done it the right way, not just gone into it, to get a show or to, whatever. They're genuinely interested in it. And that's fascinating to us, and that's important to us. So that's what I mean by metaphysical and Sonoma. The other tours are more historical, where we really get into things. Napa, we do a full-scale reenactment of the last hanging in California.
Really?
Where we make the guests stand on what would have been the gallows and summon the serial killer, Billy Rowe. So it's very fascinating.
That does sound fascinating. Yeah. Now, you mentioned something.
Well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Devin. What?
No, really well. The thing is our tours are so different. They're different entities to themselves. As Ellen was saying, the Sonoma one's more metaphysical. The Napa one, we do reenactment. We use trigger objects. And in Vacaville, we do things on that tour that we don't do on the normal tour. And plus, we're backed up by the Vacaville Heritage Council. So we're able to go into some of the things that are, historically forbidden, if you will, from paranormal investigators.
They have the keys to the kingdom.
It's very cool.
It sounds like it.
Right.
And normally when you talk to a tour operator, it's a tour, not many tours or a few tours, or it's generally one tour of many different spots, and it's refreshing to see that there are a few different options that you're offering. Now, you mentioned something about haunted objects. What haunted objects were you talking about here?
Well,
okay.
Yeah. Devin, you can tell them about our museum.
What's the evil laugh for, first of all, Devin?
People are scared of our shit, that's all.
Okay, now you have to, I'm going to set this up for you, okay? We were leaving the Tahoe Biltmore gig.
Okay.
And we had a U-Haul trailer on the back of Ellen's Tahoe, okay? Mm-hmm. And it's a U-Haul trailer. It's the two-axle one. And we've got all the stuff from the gig, all of our props, all of our equipment, all of our stuff, plus all of our haunted dolls, all of our haunted stuff. And we also have a wheelchair from the early 1900s with a dummy in it, okay?
Okay.
And we also have a coffin from Napa State Hospital that was used, it was made at Napa State Hospital in their woodworking area, and it was used as a viewing coffin for some of the patients. Okay, so all of these things carry an energy and they're haunted. So we had these in the back of the trailer, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, when you leave Nevada to go to California, they have a California agricultural border stop. And usually the person working the border stop just looks at you and waves you through, after they see that you're placed from California. They probably figure you were in Reno or, Sparks or something like that. So she stops us and we have the trailer. Okay? Mm-hmm. So she goes, can you shut the vehicle off? I need to open the trailer. I was driving. Ellen's in the passenger seat. I look at Ellen, and I'm excited. I'm like full of glee. I just went like a little girl, okay? I was so excited, okay? And I'm like, this poor woman has no idea the hell she just unleashed, okay? I'm sure she hates her job, okay? I'm sure she, like, goes to her job. She probably hates it, like, every day. And she probably goes home and she probably bitches to her husband or her kids that, oh, this job sucks and I hate it. Not today. Today is the day we're turning that around. She's going to have a story for life. So I run to the back, and I'm just, like, giddy as all hell. I unlock the thing, and I, open the door of this U-Haul rig that always has that specific U-Haul clattering chain to it. And boom! She looks in, and she's like, is that a coffin? And I'm like, yep. She goes, and that's an old wheelchair. And I go, yep, and it's haunted, too. So then in Virginia City, they have what they call the camel races.
Yeah. Yep.
And she's like, are you coming from Virginia City? And I looked at her. I'm like, really? She's like, yeah, I guess that wouldn't make sense. She goes, they're all haunted. I'm like, yep. She goes, okay, have a good day.
You mean she didn't? No, okay, she didn't like. I'm thinking too much like a border agent. She didn't look at the coffin and start tearing it apart, looking for like keys of cocaine or anything like that in it.
No, we had it open.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Excuse me, we had it open so they could already see it. It was like, we had stuff in it, but it was like, it was hilarious.
I think the dolls were in it. From now on.
That's right.
Jeff is just like, I'm not touching your dolls. I'm not touching them, Ellen.
I think I'm thinking too much like a TV border agent, probably, is what I'm thinking. Like, I don't know.
We don't have any fruit, we have dolls and coffins.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have everything else scary in the back, but not that, That was funny. It was like, I was so excited. I literally lost it.
Well, I don't blame you. It's a rare day when you get to be able to freak out. Do you call them the norms? Is that what you would call them? The normal people?
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you find it's
come
hard?
Here, come look at my coffin.
Come look at my coffin.
When we got that coffin, Devin had it in the van, and he literally dragged people in the gas station over to look at it through the window.
What did the people at the gas station say? Were they just like, no thanks?
They just like crept away slowly. That's all.
Okay.
Except for the one lady. The one lady's like, oh, I remember you. You do the ghost tour.
But that had to be the lady that worked there, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I was going to say that probably wasn't like, just a regular or something like that. No,
actually, she was just getting gas.
Oh, she was just getting gas?
Brought her over.
Okay.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I remember you.
We're kind of well known now. We're kind of well known in our town.
Oh, well, there you go.
I was in the parade. I was in the parade with my boys. My boys are scouts. And then when the Christmas parade, and we were going down the street, I was walking along. They had a fake canoe and tent. And all I hear is, it's the ghost lady, the ghost lady. So that and the fact that I have purple, black, and blonde hair, I'm kind of noticeable. So people kind of know us now. And
the second thing they said is, did you make those boys shower yet? No, I'm kidding. No.
Exactly, right? Exactly.
No, it's...
like, put your shoes outside, kids. Put your shoes outside.
Yeah, no, I'm just joking about that. So I guess the second thing I would ask is that the people that are taking the tours when it comes to the haunted objects. Now, there are two schools I see here, and whenever we do conventions, especially with the Newkirks, who have the museum of haunted objects that they bring, the traveling museum, or with John Zaffis, who has his own haunted museum of haunted objects, is that you get two schools of thought. You get the people who are absolutely creeped out and don't want to go anywhere near them, or you have the jaded people who are like, oh yeah, I'll take that home with me, or oh yeah, sit it on my lap, I'll go hold it. What kind of people do you get on your tours? Do you get the more scared, or do you get the people who absolutely just want to fondle the thing or ride around in the wheelchair or want to lay in the coffin, or which do you occur more? Do you get the more scaredy cats or the more braveheart people?
I think we get a mixture of both, but very interestingly, it's making them actually do the dowsing rods. We had a cop recently, didn't believe in anything, now is a diehard believer.
Really?
Because, we had actually a few of them, especially cops, because they've seen everything. So, by having them do the rods, they're not necessarily haunted, but seeing that we take ourselves out of the equation and it's not something that we can manipulate, and that happening for them, it makes them into, believers. It really does. Or they want to find out more. I shouldn't say full-on believers. I should say they are saying there's something to this. There's something to this. So,
see, Devin,
would you agree?
Oh, go ahead, Devin.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people on the show. It's funny because you get to know people and you get to read people, from our view. You're looking on the outside and you're seeing these people, and you could tell when they're like, 1 or 2 dates in, or they've been together a while, or like, this is the trade-off. They get to go on the creepy ghost walk at night for her because he shot like 2 rounds of golf today. You can tell. Okay. Yeah. And it's like, I get it. It's all about relationships and goals, right? Mm-hmm. It's all good. Mm-hmm. But it's funny when these, you could see when certain people aren't into it. And by the end of the tour, they're compelled to look into it more. They'll have certain things happen, or, whether it's with the dowsing rods or whether it's with them personally, or, they just experience something that's, unprecedented. It changes their opinion on things. We had one couple one night, we were doing visualization in Sonoma around the tree, and you could tell he shot like 2 rounds of golf, and she was there for, the creepy ghost walk, which was all good. But you could tell he was kind of sour. He was tired. But they had put their hands on the tree. We do the visualization, and they both let out a scream. And, we were like, okay, what was that about? Well, they didn't tell us till the very end of the tour because they had to confer with each other about what happened. They had their hands on the bark of the tree, and they said all of a sudden the bark turned to flesh and it started moving.
Ooh.
And they both let out this, incredible yelp scream. And, again, this was the guy who played golf all day. Mm-hmm. And, his wife who was into it, and now, they're into it. So, I love seeing that. But again, our job is not to sell the paranormal.
Right.
It's like we're there to provide an experience and to, help people open their eyes a little bit.
So it's not necessarily, from what you're saying, it's not necessarily a spot on the tour that you're expecting to rope people in and really give them that moment. It's more the individual experience that people are having that gets them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's one of those that where people, it always hits at unexpected times. It's like people say, well, how do you know the ghosts are going to be there? We don't know they're going to be there. We hope they're there. We hope that we conducted ourselves with respect and that they will show, but can we guarantee they're going to be there? No, we can't do that. But when people start having these experiences and seeing things, that's when it gets really interesting.
No,
I think that's more authentic than having somebody jump out at you. We don't carry lanterns and we don't dress up. Okay. We just wear our shirts, and it's no bad thing against any other tour that does that, but it's just not us.
Right.
So.
Okay, and for anybody who jumps on Facebook and says, well, here's Devin holding a lantern, That was in Boston, and we were on one of those tours, and the guy told me to hold the lantern. We both thought it was funny, and Ellen took a picture, okay?
Well,
that is not our tour, okay?
Well, there you go. Now, one of the things we were talking about off air, and one of the things that I think, and I tend to agree with you guys, one of the things that tends to not only lighten the mood, but also, if you ever try it in an investigation, really does work and tends to bring out things, especially when you're doing an EVP session, is comedy. If you happen to be joking amongst yourselves, you'd be amazed at what happens, especially in an EVP session, when you do start joking amongst yourselves. It just so happens, believe it or not, kids, ghosts are people too, and they love a good joke.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Now,
exactly.
Tell me a little bit about how you work comedy into what you do.
Well, the thing is that you go ahead, go with it.
No, well, I'll just say what I'm going to say really quickly, and then you can talk about it. But mostly, it's me making fun of Devin.
Oh, good.
That's it.
Yeah. The ladies love that. The guys not so much, but the ladies love it. It's great.
Well, thanks, Al. Appreciate it. The thing is that with the comedy, it's like, we started looking at different avenues of investigating and then doing, working the tour as well. And, I always look at it as, you want to listen to the same thing day after day.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you go to a location and people are doing the same thing, tell me your name, knock on 3 times, do this. It's like, no, man, be interesting, be funny.
Mm-hmm.
Go out there and, change it. Engage the spirit as if it was right in front of you as a flesh and blood human being. Their energy is the same. Like you said, they're still human, and they do have a sense of humor.
Can I interject that? Can I interject for just a second?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go.
We like to let our ghosts shine. They have personalities. If we, for instance, we have a judge on Napa, and he really loves the ladies. And if you give him the chance, he will shine. He will shine. His personality will come through, and he will show himself as this really funny guy. He really is, even though he's a judge. But if you just do the same script over and over again, it's not interesting. And people know when you're reading from the script.
Yeah. So
we do a lot of improv. So I'm sorry, Devin, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I felt like I had to say that.
No, it's fine, and I totally agree. It's like dealing with Katie on Sonoma.
Yeah.
Yes. Katie's a little fireball, man. She is just, she used to work in a brothel. She was the town celebrity. As she always says, she was the fancy girl. And she is hilarious. And she likes to make herself known around the guys. And she likes to put... This is one of those hosts that do practical jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And I absolutely adore her for this. There is a little bar next to Sebastiani Theater off the square. Okay?
Called the town square, right?
Yeah, they call it the town square. And Katie likes to make herself known, and she will appear in front of guys who are hammered. Okay? Not drunk, but hammered. And we all know there's like 2 or 3 shots between drunk and hammered, okay? She likes to show up in front of them, and she's looking all pretty and fine, and this guy thinks he's going to get lucky. And then all of a sudden, she does a disappearing act. She'll, fade out in front of him. And then all of a sudden, you get the hammered guy at the end of the bar going, oh, where'd you go? Which I think is absolutely hilarious.
You just described my love life, Devin.
Well, I got to say this too. Dead hookers think Devin's hot because he's got a paranormal hooker following. He really does. Katie's Devin's girlfriend.
Yeah, it kind of likes me a little bit, huh? it's okay.
And you can never
Just
prove it.
Just a little bit.
I've always told everybody for years I have a girlfriend in Canada. Yeah, it's a sad story, Devin. It really is. Yeah.
I know. It's like, hey, I'm hot on the other side, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I just want to go curl up in a ball and cry right now.
Come out here. I'll introduce you to Katie.
Yeah. So I can just relive my nightmare over and over and over again. Thanks, Ellen. I appreciate that. Sounds like a great time.
She's pretty hot. She's 21 years old, and she's blonde and blue-eyed.
Yeah.
Red dress.
Yeah, so I can just chase another girl that'll disappoint me. Yeah, that sounds great. It's wonderful. Can't wait. I'll bring a fistful of dollars and disappointment. It'll wonderful.
Oh, we got you covered, Ben. We got you totally covered.
I can't wait. I'll be right there. Oh. So, it's comedy.
Comedy, just like that.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's tell them about the wildlife in Napa, shall we?
Oh, yes. I'd love to.
You go. Yeah, I'll just say that on the corner of Brown and 3rd Street, that is like the corner of anger. That seems to be where everything happens. Devin, you go ahead and share the stories.
Yeah, so there was one night we were doing the tour, and, we always get looky-loos, and we don't mind looky-loos because usually, we usually set them in for about 10 minutes, and then one of us will give them a card and, tell them it's a private tour or whatever. So looky-loos are fun.
Okay.
There was one night we're doing the tour, and this guy staggers over who is hammered. He is very, very drunk, and I'm like, he comes over and he's trying to speak, which was hilarious within itself because he was just like slurring over his slurs. So it's like, and I'm just like, what are you trying to say? So I'm like, man, you're like really drunk. You got to go away. Go sleep it off or something. Go find a place. And so he wanders off a little bit, and I think the story's over there. Well, then I turn around. After Ellen says, Devin, turn around, and I look over, and as we're doing the tour, he's doing bicycle kicks in a very drunken manner, okay? And I'm just, he's got his feet in the air, and he's got his elbows, and he's kicking, and he's going to town, and I'm just like, wow, okay. So I finish what I'm doing with the story, and he comes over to me, and he starts talking to me. He's like, and I turn around, and I'm like, oh, man, dude, you've got to go find your friends or something, because now he has urinated all over himself.
Oh.
I'm assuming he did this during bicycle kick moments.
Probably,
okay?
Yeah.
Because it was just kind of a huge spot. It was kind of like up on his belly area as well.
Ooh.
So I'm like, yo, man, you gotta get off the street. You gotta go do something because, you got like pee all over you, right? So what does he do? He reaches down with his hands and he touches the wet urine area. And then he goes, oh, sorry. And he goes to reach for my face. I immediately caught back and I'm like, do not touch me with your pee-pee hand, sir.
Right. I'd be like, listen here, pissy Richard Simmons.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It was like the Richard Simmons from hell.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, it was so bad. And then the police showed up, and they're like, where is he? I'm like, he's over there in the bushes, because he, ducked out in the bushes, and was like, oh, I felt bad for the guy. But at the same time, it's like, who cuts their friend out like that, It's like, okay, you're on your own. Go off into the wild.
Go off into the wild and probably do some jumping jacks. You need to air out.
You need to air out, man.
Yeah, there's...
Who exercises when they're hammered? I know it's not me, because I don't do that.
Well, I'd be worried about trying to burn some calories off from all the beer or something. Yeah,
I guess. You do it later, though. Later's better.
I've been doing...
We've also had,
I've been doing the DDP yoga lately, so I'd probably get a little self-conscious and have to do something. Yeah.
Yeah, I do the Dorito yoga. So
the Dorito yoga, that's the
Doritos yoga.
It's the long stretch while you put the Dorito to the mouth.
Yeah.
I'm familiar. I've been there. Especially on Sunday afternoons.
Dog Dorito, you know. Yeah, exactly.
Sunday afternoons watching the Vikings. So, I do that. Yeah, I've been there.
Easy. We're from the Bay Area. You guys beat us up pretty bad. Easy now.
Oh, I forgot. That was last week. I'm sorry.
I know. I was trying to talk to Dave Schrader, and he was watching it, and I'm like, he's watching it behind me, and I'm like looking at him. He's like, I'm talking, and I could see he's like intent on the TV, and I'm like, he's like, sorry, I'm watching my Vikings, and I'm like, that's okay, Dave. He was really into it. I'm not a football person, so I just kind of, we talked for a second, and then I left him to it. So, but he did catch the game, so that was good. We're
both kind of big Vikings fans. Sorry, Devin. I didn't mean to remind you.
No, that's okay. But, it's okay.
We did
it stings a little, but we'll come back.
We didn't mean to decimate your front.
Always next season.
Yeah, we didn't mean to decimate your offensive line either. That was didn't mean to do that. We wanted to leave you healthy, but that's neither here nor there. Okay. Yeah. But anyways, back to the paranormal.
You watched that game, and I was like, okay, there's always next season. Don't worry about it. First game of the season, that's not good.
By the way, we didn't mean to give you our weak need running back either. But you can. There's always next year.
So we've seen all kinds of crazy things on the corner of anger, as Ellen so eloquently puts it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've seen bum fights, which was pretty amazing because these two guys were they were fighting, or trying to, and there was actually one guy who was videotaping it on his phone, one of the other homeless guys, and they're going after each other, and nobody's connecting any blows, and then finally there was a couple blows, and one guy went down, and the guy who had the camera, I guess was the judge, I don't know, I didn't know the circuit was so tough. he must have been scoring. Is that right, Ellen?
It's a tough circuit.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, definitely.
What was his famous line at the end?
Crazy things. It was, you lost. He was pointing at the guy on the ground.
Yeah.
You lost. Yeah.
Yeah, which I guess is the way, it's like MMA.
And the guy's like, call the cops. And then they rode off into the sunset.
Huh. Interesting. So there's side entertainment to this deal, is what you're saying?
Oh, yeah. We had one night, we had a whole group of 30 people, and we're on the corner of anger, and there's some drunk woman in her car, and she's yelling on her phone, you don't understand, my vagina is hanging out. And she's screaming it over and over, and she's wearing like a jumper, right? So I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Try to maintain professionalism, ignore the woman. And one of our guests turned around, and the woman had finally stopped yelling it, and the guests had turned around, and she's like, we all didn't need to hear about your vagina hanging out. The woman, just on and on. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, we had a night where we were doing the tour, and my husband was actually on the tour, and he always thinks, you're being dramatic, blah, blah, blah. These things don't happen. I'm like, you don't understand what happens on these tours. We were behind the opera house.
Exaggerate.
I know, right? And we were behind the opera house doing the Napa tour, and we hear this terrible screeching, and then we hear like what sounds like a pterodactyl scream, and then we hear like grinding of metal, and I'm in the mid-sentence, and I see this guy riding a bike without any tires on it, sparking, and he's screaming like a pterodactyl on the top of his lungs. And he rides right through the tour and goes, sparking and everything all the way through the tour. And, everybody just kind of stops. with their mouths hanging open. And my husband said, I will never doubt you again. I will never doubt you again.
And that was the 4th of July version of the tour, huh?
Yeah. You want to talk about the bell guy? The bell guy on earthquake night?
Oh, my God, yeah. Okay, so we were at one spot, and we usually stand in a circle, and Ellen is, we're facing each other, but she's on one side, I'm on the other, and we do that so we can kind of see what's going on around us. And we're doing this bit, and all of a sudden, this guy comes running through with, he's heading in our direction. He's running in goalpost position like Cornholio from Beavis and Butthead.
Okay.
He's got bells on his tracksuit. Okay, he's got bells like up and down his arms on his tracksuit. He's got one of those plastic sweatsuits, where you work out, you sweat in it.
Uh-huh.
He's got one of those, and he's running. And I mean running, not jogging. This dude was running, okay? And he's running through, and Ellen just looks at me and she goes, heads up, and all of a sudden this guy comes barreling through, full blast, okay? Full blast, and out of control, and he's like running, sweat's flying, the bells are jingling, he's like ding, 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 ding. He goes running around the circle twice, tears it on, and then into traffic where he's cutting off and cars are screeching and everything. And it was funny because we had a young man on the tour who was high functioning autistic,
mm-hmm.
and
he was such an awesome kid.
Oh, he was a great kid. Love this kid. He was very into it and just
mm-hmm.
down to earth and just very, very cool. And I used to do a comedy improv class for special needs kids,
mm-hmm.
with my kid and then a whole bunch of, so all spectrums.
Mm-hmm.
So he's sitting there, and, the bellman comes running through, and then he takes off through and we're all just everybody's just kind of quiet, like in shock, like, what the hell just happened? And all of a sudden, the kid goes, oh my God, what a weirdo, which I thought was absolutely hilarious, okay? It was like he totally called him out on it. Everybody just started laughing because nobody knew what to say. It was like, here's this kid. Oh my God, what a weirdo! It was the best, absolute best. Incidentally, that was the night of the big earthquake.
Really?
So, kind of crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I have just this bit of advice for you, Devin. The next time any woman yells, "Oh my God, my vagina is hanging out," I think you just ought to just coyly yell, if I had $1 for every time my vagina was hanging out.
Well,
and
the funny thing,
end the conversation there.
Funny thing, right? Well, the funny thing is like I had so much to say because it's like I was like my brain actually locked up because there was she's like, oh my God, my vagina's hanging out, and I'm like, I've got like 40 things to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's like
I couldn't speak.
Yeah, there's like, well, yeah, join the crowd, sister, or if I had $1 for every time mine was hanging out, or well, at least you're getting some air, or I mean, there's
that's what happens when you deliver.
Yeah. Or, well, at least you found your coin purse. I mean, there's there's so many different lines. I mean,
shut your mouth, Napper.
Wow, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
See, I mean, the lines are endless there.
It could go on forever. That's what I mean. It's like crazy.
Yeah, as far as the bellman ran twice. I mean, there's so many. It's just so much comedy.
I know, right? That's hilarious. The same night, some guy, I don't know how he managed to do it. We were walking back to the car the night of the bellman and the earthquake. He decapitated a tree somehow with his car. And so he's standing out there, and the cop's like, how the hell did you do this? And he was getting arrested for DUI. But I still can't figure out how he managed to decapitate the top of the tree and not the trunk.
Oh, my God.
That's one I haven't figured out.
Okay. I love the cop, though, because the cop was just like, he hadn't arrested him yet, but he's like, the cop's like, I'm going to have fun with this. He's like, how the hell did you do this? I was driving. Like, you took off the top of the tree and not the whole tree. Yeah, I know. You know, it was hilarious. It was like, what, you pop over the curb? You know?
That's talent.
Bizarre.
That is talent. So if people would like...
The funny thing...
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that guy, that guy went to jail tonight. Okay, so that guy went to jail during the earthquake. I bet that was fun.
Oh, yeah. That was terrible, yeah.
And felt the earth move in a whole different way.
Yeah. Well, we're still, we want to say, especially getting back to the tour really quickly, is that Napa is still very much in disarray from the 2014 earthquake.
Okay.
We had, we're Napa strong. We're going to come back from this. But downtown is pretty torn up. What I'm happy to report is that they are working on our courthouse, which is where we do the majority of our tour. So hopefully pretty soon now, we'll be able to go back up into the steps and the alcoves of the courthouse and do our investigation. The earthquake did a lot to the Napa people. And I got to say, Devin and I have survived 2 natural disasters, both the earthquake and the fires last year. We had to evacuate my home, and it decimated a business for October, of course, and several deaths in the family. So we're not easily put off. We're still here.
Okay.
So
good.
Hopefully we'll continue with that.
Okay. And Napa City Ghosts and Legends Ghost Walking Tours and Events is the business. NapaGhosts.com is the website. And, of course, we'll have the links in the description of this show so you can book your tours. Now, people can book tours all year round. Is this the case, yes? Or do you have an off-season?
We take a little bit of time off in December because it's family time, but yes, typically all year round.
Okay. All right. So then that's the site, NapaGhosts.com. And by all means, folks, book your tours now. And now's I would take it fall has got to be a beautiful time in Napa. Is that right?
Yes, the weather's perfect here this time of the year. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. It gets cold at night, but I mean, it's beautiful. It's a perfect day to be able to go out in the valley and then come and do this at night.
All right. Devin, Ellen, I want to thank you both for joining me today and giving us a little insight on Napa and even some of the more bizarre areas of Napa. It's greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Well, thank you both. Ellen MacFarlane and Devin Sisk. Again, Napa City Ghosts and Legends Ghost Walking Tour and Events. You can check out the website at napaghosts.com and check out the description of this show to get both the websites of both of them to check out their Ghost Walking Tours and Events and where they'll be because they also have appearances and speaking events as well as the Ghost Walking Tours and Events. Folks, that'll do it for this weekend. A reminder that I'll be on Midnight in the Desert Monday through Friday this coming week and taking over for Dave on Midnight in the Desert. And then, of course, next weekend shows Supernatural News on Saturday. And then Sunday, we'll have a whole new guest coming up on Sunday. And that'll do it for this week. Appreciate you tuning in this weekend. And again, Dave will be gone next weekend, but I'll be taking over next weekend for Beyond the Darkness as well. For Dave Schrader, I'm Tim Dennis. You've been listening to the best in paranormal talk radio. This has been Beyond the Darkness.